thanks for tuning in, guys. Today we have our own Stefi Cohen in the house. For those of you who don't know who she is an 11-time world record holder in powerlifting. Many of those world records are in the deadlift. She's also the first woman in history to ever deadlift 4 times body weight raw, meaning without a deadlift suit and no straps. And she's one of the owners of High Performance Method along with me. So we're gonna walk through a lot of the questions and hopefully give you guys valuable answers to those questions that you guys have brought up about how she prepares for the deadlift, some of the technique points that she thinks are important, and other things like that. So let's get started. Okay, so a question that comes up frequently is, do you just jump into deadlift and start with the barbell and that's sort of working up as your warm-up, or do you have a routine that you do prior to working with the barbell?
Right, so not only for the deadlift, I've been preaching the importance of a warm-up for a long time now, not only specifically for a deadlift, but anything that you're doing, whether that's running, CrossFit, squatting, benching, whatever that is, it's really important to prime your body before that so that you feel better and you prevent injuries, etc. So before I start deadlifting, for example, I start with a more general warm-up first, where I stretch out my quads, hamstrings in a more dynamic way, and then I jump to a little bit more specific depending on what I'm feeling that's tight that day. It's usually for me, and I'm assuming for a lot of people, it's that hip flexibility, specifically the adductors. So I like to spend a little bit more time there, making sure that I stretch out properly and that I have the mobility necessary that day to get into the right positions when I start doing my sumo.
I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. You can't box me in, nah. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, nah. You can't box me in, nah. Try to stop me, you can't. I'm going hard in the paint. Look myself in the mirror, told myself you the man. Now it's time to go get it. Now it's time to go live it. Busy putting in work. Yeah, I'm handling business. 1, 2, now I'm going in. Yo, got my wings, now I'm in the wind. Yo, but I ain't do it on my own, I know. Yo, thank God for the blessings. Woo. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. You can't box me in, nah. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym. You can't box me in, nah. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. You can't box me in, nah. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, yo. You can't box me in, nah. Just know that I'm focused. I don't need you to notice. Yeah, I heard your little comment. Just know that was bogus. I don't play them games. Yeah, I stay in my lane. I am a little different. That's why we not the same. I'ma shock the world like I'm Tupac. Bandana around my head like I'm Tupac. Yo, watch me get it. Watch me get it done. Young Nasir, yeah, I'm God's son. Woo. I got the juice, yeah, the juice on me. Woo. I got the proof, yeah, the proof on me. Yo, you tellin' lies. Yo, that's why I'm running with the truth, homie. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. You can't box me in, nah. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, yo. You can't box me in, nah. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. You can't box me in, nah. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, I'm reppin'. 1, 2, I'm in the gym, yo. You can't box me in, nah.
So I guess another common question that comes up is, what sort of footwear do you want to use? When people look online, you see weightlifters doing clean pulls with an elevated heel, you see people pulling in bare feet, you see people with flat shoes. What do you recommend for someone who wants to get the most out of their sumo deadlift?
I think that it boils down to what your personal preference is, but especially for sumo, I would recommend a flat shoe. I like using the, what are they called? The Chucks?
The Converse Lean.
Converse
really thin
Leans,
sole.
yeah, because they have a really, really thin sole, but yet they have some ankle support. So if you compare those to, let's say, an A7, what are those called?
The deadlift slipper.
Slippers, yeah. The difference between those is that the Converse has actually a little bit more heel support, whereas those slippers don't have any. So I just feel like my foot kind of like swims there.
Yeah, I've actually seen a lot of people complain about those deadlift slippers that, especially in sumo, because you push out so much.
And your foot kind of
it
rolls out of
slips,
the
like out of the slipper.
So Converse Leans, way to go.
Cool. I think the next one that comes up a lot, or at least something that we see a ton of in the hybrid coaching Facebook group, is people having the wrong hand position in the deadlift, whether it be hook grip or mixed grip. You see a lot of people really close. You see people taking it wide. What do you recommend for hand position in that?
Ideally, the hand position you want to assume is one where your hands are in line with your shoulders, so it's like just a straight line all across, and that's because this will allow you to kind of just like use your arms as little as possible, if that makes sense, and kind of just let them hang like strings, and that pretty much avoids you having to bend and prevents you from tearing your biceps and all those things. Also, the other thing to take into account is I like having at least some, because I'm more narrow, I'm a petite lifter, I'm small, and I think it's important to have some of your fingers at least on the knurling. I know that some people are gonna be even narrower than me and are gonna end up in this smooth surface, but if you can even like get your index finger on that knurling, it will make a difference in your grip.
Do you have a preference? Mixed grip versus hook grip?
I think, because from the beginning I started training mixed grip. I think the benefits of mixed grip are that, if you think of mixed grip like a tug of war, that's what it's called, right?
Yep.
A tug of war. You have 4 fingers on this side, 4 fingers on this side, 1 finger on this side, 1 finger on this side. So it's kind of like an even pull. So it kind of like all balances out. Personally, I've never trained hook grip, at least not for a long enough time to have a solid opinion on it. Maybe I've tried it on a few occasions, but it just, for now, it doesn't feel comfortable to me. But I've seen a lot of people have, like Kaylor Woodlam, extreme success with that technique. So I think it's a matter of practicing both for enough time, like giving yourself enough time to kind of get adjusted and figure out for yourself, and then pick the one that works the best for you.
Sure. And just to add to that, I think probably another factor would be the size of your hands. Someone with banana hands who can get their whole hand on their thumb and hook grip is probably a big advantage over someone small like you, or even someone with kind of smaller hands like me, who, I'm getting 1 to 2 fingers on my thumb and hook grip, and that's just not a strong pull for me. And then I guess the other benefit would also be the lower risk of tearing a bicep with hook grip. So it's sort of a trade-off. I guess if you have the right proportions for hook grip, it could be beneficial and limit some risk of injury, but for a lot of people it's not feasible just because of proportions. Stance, I guess, is another big one. You see a lot of people with super wide stances. You see a lot of people, look kind of awkward with these narrow stances, almost like a conventional with their hands on the inside. How do you set up, and what should people be looking for when they're in the bottom start position of a sumo deadlift?
So as far as width goes, you want to pick a position that allows you to, at the bottom of the deadlift, to have a kind of like a completely perpendicular shin angle to the ground. So if I were to be in here, when I grab the bar, you can see that my knees are too far out. That's definitely not a perpendicular angle. If I'm too wide at the bottom, then it's what's that? Is it an acute or a, what are they typically? Obtuse angle. And then this is the stance that I use that allows me to have perfectly perpendicular shins. Foot placement, you want to put your feet in a way that allows your knees to be out of the way of the bar. So you always want to think about moving yourself around the bar and not the bar around yourself. And that's if you're doing a clean, if you're doing a snatch, if you're doing a deadlift, it's the same principle applies. So you need to think about how you're going to position your body in a way that allows the bar to move from the ground straight up in a straight line. So for me, and I think for most people, you want to point your toes out towards the plates in kind of like this 45-degree angle. Because that way, when you pull from here, you see I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just straightening out my knees, and that bar can stay in that same line the whole time.
Just to circle back to what you were talking about with the stance width. So I guess the limitation of the closer foot stance would be that it creates a bigger angle for you to have to get around your knee. So it takes you away from your center of gravity, which isn't optimal. And then with the wide stance, having super wide, what do you feel that makes more difficult? Is that the lockout?
Yeah, if you're super wide, just the hip stability at lockout is gonna be compromised. You're usually gonna end up locking your knees way before you're even in the direct position or upright enough to lock out successfully. So you'll end up kind of like in this position.
Okay.
With the bar in front of you.
You definitely see a lot of people with those wider stances.
Yeah, they miss a lot at lockout just because they can't get in the right position to lock out to counteract the weight of the bar. Yeah, a limiting factor to what kind of stance you end up picking is gonna be 1, your flexibility, and 2, your strength. Like what your strength is. Like, do you have strong quads? Do you have strong hips or stable hips? Are you more of like a glute and posterior chain person? That's also gonna influence the stance that you pick.
Do you think about anything in terms of having your shoulders in a certain position off the floor to keep your arms straight, to not, risk a bicep tear? Is there anything you're thinking about there? I think those were just my next 2.
No, not really. I don't really, a lot of lifters, especially advanced lifters, will round their upper backs and their shoulders to kind of, I think one reason is to gain a little bit more range of motion. You can pull
to limit
the range of motion at lockout, because you have, your back and shoulders are forward, so you have to lock out essentially like, a couple inches less. And there's really no detriment to doing that. As long as you can maintain enough tension through your lats, I don't think it matters whether you pull with your shoulders more forward or with your shoulders completely retracted. I think it's more so like the lat engagement that matters the most.
Right, and it's the change in flexion of your spine that would be dangerous in a deadlift, as opposed to having a fixed position that would be a little more rounded over, right?
Right, well, I think the most detriment comes from bending of the lower back more so than the upper back. Like if you think about it, the shape of your upper back is already kyphotic, so you are already in that kind of like curved position naturally to begin with. So whether or not you're pulling like that or you're pulling a little bit more straight, I don't think it necessarily impacts the health of your spine. But I think problems do arise when you see lifters excessively bending at the lower back, especially because that's the opposite of the natural curvature of the back. So if you see, you see the upper back has this nice rounded curvature here, and then the lower back has the opposite one. It's called a lordosis. So if you were to pull with a rounded lower back, you're really forcing this spine into the opposite position, and that's when we can run into problems. So I'm going to take you guys through exactly what I think about when I'm pulling that could potentially make a difference in the way that your deadlifts feel. So the first thing I'm thinking about is maintaining my positions from the ground. So the sumo deadlift is a highly technical lift. Even the smallest movement or change in position in your setup and in your first inch off the floor is gonna impact the way that lift ends, or whether or not you'll make the lift or miss it. So most important thing, I first lock up my hips. make sure I start building up tension off the ground. A lot of people like to do this like dynamic start. Personally, I like a more static start that allows me to stay in control my position off the floor better. So what I want you to do, I want you to do a pull and pull it to the middle of your shin first, okay? So neck stays protracted. All you want to think about is hips rising at the same time as your upper body and leaning back into the bar. So do it again. Good. Neck stays protracted. So tuck your chin like this. Yeah. Good. Good. And back down. Good. So to pick your hip position, a lot of people struggle with where should your hips be starting. Is it up here, down here? Is it rising too much? So what I like to do to coach people into finding the right hip position is doing a slow eccentric deadlift. So essentially pick the bar up and then bringing it slow down into the ground. And then slow, 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 slow. Good. And that would be it for him. You notice that a lot of lifters, their second, third, fourth rep looks better than the first one. And I think part of it has to do with being able to get into a more proper position after that first lift. You're one of those lifters, right? Second, third lifts are better. So essentially, you want to keep your arms as loose as you can as far as like your bicep engagement goes. You want to engage your lats, but not your biceps. Then you almost want to think about sitting back and allowing your hips to rise at the same time as your upper body, okay? And another important thing is keeping your chest nice and high. So a lot of people tend to do this and then rise with the butt up, then pull like that. That would be more similar to a conventional deadlift, you know, where you let your butt start higher and let your chest drop. You don't want to do that in a sumo deadlift. You want to make sure that your hips stay stacked, kind of like in that same position. Then from there, they rise at the same time as your upper body and your chest stays nice and high. So it's important to see that different proportions are going to lead to different deadlifts, especially in the way they look. So the worst thing you can do is try to compare your deadlift to another person's deadlift. You should be trying to apply all of these concepts that I told you and all of these pointers to yourself, but never trying to make your deadlift look like my deadlift or like his deadlift.
So how would someone like me with longer shins, who's a little high-waisted, a little bit of a shorter body than you, what should you expect to see differently in my deadlift compared to yours? My sumo deadlift.
I mean, yours already, when you do your sumo deadlift, you can't get into as upright position as I can.
Right.
So that would be one thing. You know, your arms are shorter than mine, your torso is shorter than mine. So you're not going to be able to be in this position that I'm in. You tend to default to more like a position like this, which it's okay. It's just what you can do. Right. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong. It just, that's what he can do. That's how his lifts looks. And what's your best sumo?
I've done 280 kilos, 17 pounds for 3.
Pretty good. So see, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work. It works for him, but it looks different than mine.
Sure. I'm definitely better suited for conventional though.
Yeah.
My best conventional is 10 kilos. My best conventional triple is 10 kilos, but.
Hope you guys liked it. Those were my 2 cents in the deadlift, and I hope that you can take some of it out of it and apply it to your own lifts and hopefully improve a little bit.
If you guys like this video, remember to like, subscribe, and share it. If you have anything else that you want to see from us, just post it in the comment section below. And if you have any questions about this video, post it in the comment section below as well, and we'll try to get back to everybody's with answers to everybody's questions.